16, number 19, the Board of Nursing Emergency Memoranda dated March 5th, 2021.
Senator, my version may be numbered a little differently. Do you know the section number?
Section 4, subsection 19.
All right.
This has to do with this is a Board of Nursing. I've got the Board of Nursing action pulled up here, and I know that your comment was that having these things in light of the COVID-19 is more important to have these things done. And I've expressed this to you privately, but I'm going to bring it up publicly, that this section also gets rid of the Kappa CS requirements of oversight. Right now in the law, I think new nurse practitioners, I believe, have a 1-year requirement before they can write controlled substances. They also have a requirement to have a collaborative agreement with physicians for oversight of narcotic prescribing. I'm not really sure how writing controlled substances helps us combat COVID-19 or helps us in a state of emergency. Maybe you haven't heard the news, but I think we've had a 49% increase in overdose deaths during COVID-19. We've pulled the data over the past 10 years. I think we've seen physicians reduce their narcotic prescribing by 40%, dentists by 50%. Nurse practitioners in that 10-year span are up 500% in narcotic prescribing. Benzodiazepines, which are Schedule 3 through 5 drugs, they're up 800% in prescribing. This was suspended, really, by their board. I'm not sure that they have the authority to do that. But at this point in time, in light of the recent surge of overdoses of people and fatal overdoses that we've had, to suspend something purely for the purpose of having a group of practitioners who are exhibiting an increase in their prescribing habits for that, to say you're going to be able to prescribe more, I don't know how that helps combat COVID-19. I'm hoping maybe you can help us with that.
Senator, first, I think it's very appropriate that we acknowledge the difficulties many folks have struggled with during this time of COVID. That is tragic. 49% increase in overdose deaths is tragic. It's reflective of the challenges people have because we are a communal creature. We as humans are communal creatures, and it saddens me to know of those numbers. Senator, you have certainly raised that point to me in conversation, and likewise, as I have researched some and talked with folks in the nursing industry, the nursing folks bring different numbers. Now, are we at a point in time when access is critical? Absolutely. I think you and I both agree that access to care is critical right now. I think we've got quality nurses, we've got quality doctors. Far and away, by far, the vast majority of our professionals are that. I don't know if we specifically, based on your information, that you're indicating that we have nurses who purposely are over-administering and over-prescribing for the purpose. I don't think you're intoning that they're doing it for the purpose of creating overdose deaths. But I sense that you indicate that they're not capable or not skilled enough. Share with me your thoughts.
I'm just asking, Senator, how this helps us combat COVID-19 by removing the Kappa CS.
Access to care.
Access to more, Kappa CS is to do with prescription of controlled substances. So how does that access to that help us combat COVID-19?
So the recurring theme that you've seen in this regulation and in others is a removal of requirements that are administrative in nature. And so, Senator, my response is going to be this correlates with many of the other waiving of some of the continuing ed requirements, waiving of some of those paperwork requirements that are well-intended but are bureaucratic in nature.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Yep.
So I disagree with that. In Kappa CS, we're talking about, and again, I think your comments were is to have these in place. I think your words were, in light of COVID-19, is more important. Waiving the Kappa CS has nothing to do. Nurse practitioners are independent prescribers. They can prescribe the medications and treatments for COVID-19 with having this in place or not having it in place. So to waive it is specifically to allow a group of practitioners who are increasing by 300 in number, and I'll be happy to, I think you've had the data that I've shared because I've collected it from Casper every year. And since we're including this now and saying we want to sign off on this factor, that's the concern that I've got. We've got market increases by certain groups of prescribers who are prescribing more of this. I've talked to the Board of Nursing about it for oversight, and it's been an issue. We have physicians overseeing this purposefully for that factor, but during this past year when this has been suspended, and again, I've got the Casper report numbers, I'd be happy to share them with you. We've seen our physicians and dentists write less, and our nurse practitioners have written more. So if the question is about access to care, I would encourage also, we've got about 200,000, I think, national openings for nurses right now in our hospitals. We have 325,000 nurse practitioners. If they're wanting to help us with access, the access we need right now is in our hospitals. That's where the access is required. We could, nurse practitioners, RRNs also, and I'm hoping, and I've channeled this to some of our hospitals as well and partners, to ask our nurse practitioners to go back to their roots, be able to do some of this hospital work that's required right now where we have a tremendous need. But waiving Kappa CS, which is specifically it's a collaborative agreement for physicians for the oversight of scheduled drugs, which are all controlled prescription drugs, to make sure that is being done, to have that in place for a reason in our law. To suspend that does not increase our access for treatment of COVID-19. It does not help in the treatment of COVID-19 in any way. It merely allows practitioners to have that oversight removed to be able to write more controlled substances. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.